Okay, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming. I have to explain why we are here. In fact, we have started with our research on Eastern Europe. That was the beginning of the post-traumatic sovereignty subject. And in the meantime, the commission for a book on Poland, for some populist reasons, came, and that was the reason why I had this opportunity to write the new politics of Poland that you have mentioned. But then, yeah, it should be.
Oh, it's on. Now it's on.
Now it's on?
Now it's good.
Yeah, maybe I.
Now you don't have to bend.
Okay. Okay. Now it's fine.
That's fine.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Just so.
I'll repeat everything from the beginning.
Thank you for having me. We are continuing a project that has begun with Eastern Europe. This is the book that was published in Germany, Post-Traumatische Souveränität, the first edition, the second edition of the book. And this is the beginning of our research that, for me as a legal historian, from the very beginning was a question of the choice of geographical choice that was somehow imposed from the outside. In fact, the subject of research that I'm going to talk about from the very beginning, for anyone who deals with state history, global state history, seems to be something pretty obvious, that it's no one in the region of Eastern Europe has a monopoly to be wiped off the map, so to say. So this is just the beginning. Karolina is going to talk more about the choice of these three countries, three points of reference that we are going to talk about today. I'm going through the point of departure, our approach that seemed to justify our choice and to go global with our project, so to say. At the beginning of so I will start with what we are experiencing today, the return of the term sovereignty. This is the concept of sovereignty has returned to the limelight, and in recent years it is not any European monopoly for that term. We are hearing about sovereignty in so many different contexts that it is also interesting to think how popular, how catchy this term became. Only in recent years we've heard about sanitary sovereignty, industrial sovereignty, digital sovereignty. Maybe you could name more, but what is an important thing is that the whole debate that we have, the political debate that is that appears around these terms, is mainly roughly based on the belief that anyone understands sovereignty in the same way. Well, nothing could be more puzzling. Nothing could be more puzzling. Sovereignty belongs to a catalog of highly controversial notions. Highly controversial notions. The term itself obviously is definitely not new, but at most updated to current political and legal circumstances. Scholarly speaking, the term emerged with the birth of the modern era and is usually associated with the works of political philosophers, beginning with Machiavelli, Jean Baudin, and obviously Thomas Hobbes. So in academia, a whole spectrum of sovereignty understandings has been presented over hundreds of years, and only in recent years the usefulness in political and legal research has been proved. At the same time, its complete uselessness or even harmfulness. But ultimately, I tend to think that today the scientific world seems rather inclined to leave the term in the vocabulary of academic terms, sometimes by a price at the cost of presenting an ascetic definition. So the most basic definition is perhaps to define sovereignty as a supreme authority within a territory. That's this basic approach. But in our research, for the considerations of on the countries that are threatened from the outside and the population feel threatened from the outside, we believe that the more interdisciplinary approach is justified. In fact, there are some more capacious definitions, and they are useful for our research because they are we are reminded of the fact that, firstly, this is an interdisciplinary phenomenon, that to analyze the sovereignty and the fear of losing sovereignty in the long and short and medium term perspective. But what is more, we should not escape from the fact that also also scholars and their scholar approaches very often are shaped by their own long-term political and legal culture. So the attitude of peoples towards their own sovereignty in the 21st century refers scholars back to collective historical experiences. This is to say that we would like to underline that Eastern Europe is not exceptional, and there is no kind of Eastern European Sonderweg from the legal history viewpoint. Ukraine and other countries of the region rather belongs to a group of states that have been erased from the map more than once, and the countries of this region, they even experience a kind of cyclical erasure, combined with the various forms of violence that are associated with the collapse with any attempt to be wiped off the map. At the same time, why it is why this approach may be interesting for our for the future research is that, in fact, we could, as a global legal history scholar, when I'm asked to explain the phenomenon of living within the state against the background of history, I tend to think of three baskets of states. In the first, I think that this helps us to understand our approach. In the first basket, we have the states which societies lived through longer periods of continuity, of the living in the state that its existence became an obvious matter. And here it could, obviously we are in the UK, so this the existence of the state could become so banal that this is not even at the beginning of the 20th century. We have these quotations that you could not even see the state. But that's only the first basket. The second basket are the states, are the experiences of the people with the states that underwent serious turbulences, very serious turbulences. Partitions, the unifications, disintegrations. Here, the best example in Europe is probably Germany. That you have these turbulences, but at the same time, there's this social sense of continuity. That the existence of the state in various forms, perfect, sometimes not perfect, sometimes divided, etc. But the sense is there. And there is the third basket, probably the most overlooked, the first basket of experience with the states, with the peoples of the states that underwent that full erasure from the map. I mean, not a metaphorical, because again, the dying state could be understood in different ways. We have a Marxist theory of dying state. We have Nietzschean theory of dying state. This is not the case. We are talking about something very down to earth, which means to erase the state from the map and dismantle slowly but surely its institutions and the whole violence that is associated with that. So what was our conclusion, and how to put it as simple as possible? In a nutshell, the post-traumatic sovereignty phenomenon, I would say it. I would describe it as in these words. This phenomenon means that some peoples have an independent state, and the trauma of not having it, or the trauma of being threatened from the outside, to be erased from the map. This is just the initial take on the complex problem, but after 2014 and /2022 in Eastern Europe, this sentiment of having an independent state and the trauma of not having it became amplified, obviously, because of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. But this existential angst is present there before. And this is a part of the collective identity that for different countries of the region was expressed perhaps in the best way by someone who was not a scholar, but a writer, Milan Kundera, when he wrote his famous essay on the kidnapped West, describing the existential angst of Central European, Eastern European people. And after 2022, I was not so surprised to see that some Ukrainian intellectuals developed the concept of kidnapped West and the existential angst that was associated with that to Ukraine. So the post-traumatic sovereignty intellectual background is not limited geographically. I think that for us scholars, it is important because the angst of this existential angst changes the entire perception, not only of politics, but also of history. In fact, again, on the global scale, this is hardly a new phenomenon to disappear from the map. But for any society, this is a crucial point of reference. Today, when again, we have still the textbooks that are organized according to the pattern of losing sovereignty in the past. which is, by the way, very often a message for young readers, that in fact you should take it into consideration that if something like that happened in the past, this may be a useful framing for the future. How it translates itself into the more practical area, I think that if you look at the military expenditure on the top list of military spending, it's interesting to see not only United States but Estonia, Poland, and other countries from Eastern Europe, and there is a wide consensus to support this policy. I mean, it's easy to make comparison with some Western European countries to understand that such a level of expenditure would be contested over there, whereas it is not. And it's interesting to understand, therefore, this cultural background before this wide support for such policy. And it's an interesting area for us scholars to do it. One more contemporary remark is that, in fact, all the countries that joined NATO and the EU structures after the collapse of communism, their motivation to go west was not only a materialistic one. That's a huge misunderstanding that is very often repeated over and over. Obviously, there was a part of this effort to get rich, to say it, to put it simply. But there was also a part of the story was to escape the East, namely the Russian sphere of influence. And if we are looking at the foreign policy of Ukraine, this is to follow the path, to follow this path. And therefore, it looks like a useful tool for research. What is our hypothesis? And I will give Karolina opportunity to tell you more. We are examining the hypothesis that the repeated loss of statehood and sovereignty, often accompanied by episodes of violence, can be seen as a source of collective trauma and influence the crucial political choices for today, including the choice of political regime. That's, I believe, is something that we would like to discuss with you during this panel. Post-traumatic sovereignty means that the idea of sovereignty in a given society is marked by intense collective fears and even a certain neuroticism. And Eastern Europe is by us treated as one of many examples of this phenomenon, alongside along countries like Taiwan and Israel. That's why we would like to discuss it with you. I have a lot of historical anecdotes, but I will skip it. Maybe I will leave it for the discussion. And just to conclude, there is the choice of these three places that we propose for today is very simple. If you are asked if there is a place where the Third World War and a global conflict may start, usually these are three top places. It's therefore, you are seen from the outside as a problem, as a political problem to be solved. You are very far from treated as a whatever that means, as a normal geopolitical situation. This is treated as a problem to be solved. You are seen from the outside as something that perhaps should be solved from the outside. Therefore, it takes a part of your agency. That this perspective simply means that your fate is not entirely in your own hands. So, and at the same time, what we would like to underline is that this perspective means that this imperial, in fact, imperial framing leaves little space to talk about this human experience of living in a countries that there is a constant fear of being wiped off the map. That it's a part of your everyday experience. That it's a part of your how you think about the past, present, and the future. How you plan your life and the life for your kids. Who are you voting for? How you think, how you rationally think about what is the best choice of your political regime? One of our questions that I would raise today is that, in fact, a part of keeping our sovereignty alive was to keep the soft power, a kind of soft power that would be a magnet for your friendly empire. Yeah? And for Taiwan, I think this was one of the most important things. But it means that perhaps, and this is the question, perhaps we could say sovereignty first, the political regime the second, because it may turn out that to return, in order to survive, it's sometimes I hated to say, but sometimes it may be important to rethink in which political regime you are living in order to survive on the map. So this is just to begin. I'm giving the floor to Carolina, and thank you very much.